I looked, and behold, a door, standing open in heaven. And the first voice which I had heard said, "Come up here." The Spirit lifted me and brought me into the inner court. And behold, the glory of the Lord filled the temple. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. The Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of wisdom, the Spirit of understanding, the Spirit of counsel, the Spirit of might, the Spirit of knowledge, and the Spirit of the fear of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, lofty and exalted, with the train of his robe filling the temple. Then I said, "Woe is me, for I am ruined. I am a person of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." Then he showed me a high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to accuse him. And the Lord said to Satan, "The Lord rebuke you, O Satan. The Lord who has chosen this one rebuke you. Is this not a brand plucked from the fire? Be gracious to him and say, 'Deliver him. I have found a ransom.'" God protects everyone who has been born of God, and the evil one does not touch him. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a burning coal in his hand, which he had taken from the altar with tongs. He touched my mouth with it and said, "Behold, this has touched your lips, and your iniquity is taken away, and your sin is forgiven." And the angel said to those who were standing before him, "Remove the filthy garments from him." And to him he said, "Behold, I have taken your iniquity away from you, and I will clothe you with pure vestments, which will be for glory and for beauty. Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul will exalt in my God, for he has clothed me with garments of salvation. He has covered me with a robe of righteousness. Righteousness shall be the belt of his waist, and faithfulness the belt of his loins, that he might judge the peoples with equity, and righteousness and the people in his faithfulness." And the angel said to those who were standing before him, "I will clothe you with pure vestments, which will be for glory and for beauty." They mounted stones in gold settings and engraved them like a seal with the names of the sons of Israel. Then they fastened them to the arm as memorial stones. And there was also a plate of pure gold, like engravings with a seal, "Holy unto the Lord." Make it in the likeness of Aaron's, which he wore over his heart when he entered the holy place, for a memorial before the Lord continually. But when Christ appeared as a high priest of the good things to come, he entered through the greater and more perfect tabernacle into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for this love is stronger than death. Its flashes are the very flame of the Lord. Be gracious to me, O God, according to your loving kindness, according to the greatness of your compassion. Blot out my transgression. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin, so that you are justified when you speak, and blameless when you judge. For behold, on the stone that I have set before my priest, on a single stone with 7 eyes, I will engrave its inscription, declares the Lord of hosts. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. For he who is joined with the Lord becomes one spirit with him. And whoever has despised the day of small things shall rejoice and see the plumb line in the hand of my servant. These 7 are the eyes of the Lord, which range through the whole earth. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to give strong support to those whose heart is blameless before him. Blessed is the one you choose and bring near to dwell in your courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of your house and the holiness of your temple. For just one day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. My soul longs, it faints for the courts of the Lord. Blessed are those who dwell in your house. Splendor and majesty are before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Bring an offering. Come into his courts. Worship the Lord in the splendor of holiness. My heart and flesh sing for joy to the living God. Blessed are those who dwell in your house, ever singing your praise. Blessed are those in whose heart are highways to Zion. Each one appears before God in Zion. As I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat in the court, sat in judgment. And behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man, and he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom is one that shall not be destroyed. All things have been created through him and for him. Now it will come about in the last days that the mountain of the house of the Lord will be established as chief of the mountains, and will be raised above the hills, and the nations will stream to it, and many peoples will say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, that he might teach us his ways, and that we might walk in his paths." For the law will go forth from Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem, and he will judge between the nations, and will render decisions for many peoples. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, nor decide disputes by what his ears hear, but with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. Say among the nations, "The Lord reigns. He will judge the people with equity, for he comes to judge the earth in righteousness, and the peoples in his faithfulness. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the seas. And in that day of him shall the nations inquire, and his resting place shall be glorious." Of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end, on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. It was the Father's good pleasure for all of the fullness to dwell in Jesus, and through him to reconcile all things to himself. He has now reconciled you in his body to present you before him, holy and blameless. Christ in you is the hope of glory. If you will walk in my ways and keep my charge, then you shall rule my house and have charge of my courts, and I will give you the right of access among those who are standing here. Selah.